أولى ثانوي. فرصة جديدة وحلم جديد وهنعديها بالتأكيد، وهنعديها بالتأكيد. أولى ثانوي.
Dear secondary stage students, year 1, welcome to our English program and welcome to our channel, Madrasetna 3, under the supervision of the Ministry of Education. Today we are going to continue Unit 11. This is part 2. This is the section of grammar. We are going to study the relative clause. We are going to study the relative pronouns, who, whom, which, whose, where, and when. Let's start together. Our objectives for this lesson: by the end of the lesson, you will use defining relative clause to give necessary information about a person or a thing, and we are going to use non-defining relative clause to give more information about something. What are the relative clause? What are the relative pronouns? As you see, we have the relative pronouns who, that, which, whose, where, when, and what. We're going to discuss together in detail how we can use each one of them. What about the word who or that? It can be used to replace a subject like he, she, we, or they. So instead of repeating the same subject again, we can use who or that to refer to a subject, a person. So the word who can replace a subject who is a person. If we talk about a person and he is a subject in the sentence, you can use the word who. Let's look at the example. This is a boy. He plays tennis. Instead of saying he, we can use who. This is the boy who plays tennis. And again, we can say, this is the boy that plays tennis. So as you see here, the word who is followed by a verb. So the boy plays tennis. So the word who here is the subject of the sentence and then followed by a verb. The boy who plays tennis. So the boy is the subject of the sentence. So again, we can use who or that in order to talk about a subject, and it is always followed by a verb. This is the boy who plays tennis, or this is the boy that plays tennis. What about the word whom? We can use whom to replace an object. We can use whom to replace an object. An object like him, her, them, and us. Again, we can use who and that in the same way. Let's look at the example. This is a boy. The teacher punished him. So as you see here, the boy now is not the subject of the sentence. The boy is the object of the sentence. This is the boy. The teacher punished the boy. So here the boy in the second sentence is the object. This is the boy, the teacher punished him. So instead of using him, we can say whom. This is the boy whom the teacher punished. And as you see, whom is followed by a subject. It's very important to remember that who is followed by a verb, but whom is followed by a subject. So this is the boy whom the teacher punished. Again, instead of using whom, if we don't find whom, we can use who or that. What about the word which? The word which or that can refer to something, not human. So, for example, we can say he watched a film. The film was interesting. So here we are talking about a film, not about a person, about the film. So we can use which. This is the film which he watched. This is the film that he watched. So we can use which or that to refer to an object or a subject, something, not human being. Okay, so we can say the car which I bought, the book which I read, the cat which drank milk. So when we talk about something, not human being, we use which, and we can also use that. So that can refer to a person or something. When we refer to someone, we can use that, and when we refer to something, we can use that. What is the difference between who and whom? Who is followed by a verb, but whom is followed by a subject. What about the word whose? The word whose refers to a possessive pronoun. Possessive pronoun like my, his, her, our. These are the possessive pronouns. So look at the example. This is my friend. Her eyes are blue. This is my friend whose eyes are blue. So instead of using the possessive pronoun her, we used whose. This is my friend whose eyes. Whose eyes means her eyes are blue. So we can say whose eyes are blue. This is my friend whose eyes are blue. We can say this is a man whose car was stolen. This is a woman whose daughter got married. So here we have a relation between the woman and her daughter. So the woman whose daughter. A relation between the car and the man whose car means the car of this man. So instead of using a possessive pronoun like my, his, her, we can use whose. This is my friend whose eyes means his eyes are blue. Now we have the word where. We can use the word where in order to refer to a place. When we talk about a place, we use the word where. And we can use which, but with preposition. Let's look at the example. This is the house. I was born in this house. So here I'm talking about a place. This is the house. I was born in this house. So instead of repeating the word house again, we can say this is a house where I was born. So we use where to refer to a place. This is the house where I was born. Again, we can use which with preposition. So we can say this is the house in which I was born. This is the house in which. We cannot say which alone. We should use preposition. This is the house in which I was born, or this is the house where I was born. Also, we can use the preposition at the end of the sentence. So we can say, this is the house which I was born in. We cannot say where I was born in. We will say which I was born in. So if there is a preposition with the place, we use which. This is the house in which I was born, or this is the house which I was born in, or this is the house where I was born. What about the word when? The word when refers to time. When we talk about time, day, month, year, we use when. So we can say this is the day when I was born. This is the month when I was born. This is the year when I was born. So when we talk about time, we use when. And again, we can use which if there is a preposition. So we can say this is the month I was born in it. I was born in this month. This is the month when I was born, or this is the month in which I was born, or this is the month which I was born in. So again, if there is a preposition, we use which. If there is no preposition with time, we use when. So the same rule with when and where. If there is a preposition, we cannot use when or where. We use which if there is a preposition. So we can say in which, on which, at which, for which. Okay, so if I'm talking about a day, so I will say this is the day on which I was born. Okay. What about the word what? The word what again refers to something, but we don't mention this thing. So for example, I can say, I don't know what to wear for the party. I don't know what to buy for my shopping. So here, we refer to something, but we don't mention that thing. So I didn't believe the words which he said, or I didn't believe what he said. So when I use which, I said the words which he said. But when I say what, I said I don't believe what he said. I don't believe what he said. So the word what can be the object of the sentence. I don't believe what he said. Or it can be the subject. What he said is unbelievable. The news which he told me is untrue, or what he told me was untrue. So again, we can use what at the beginning of a sentence. What he said is unbelievable, what he said is untrue, or I don't believe what he said. At the end of the sentence, I don't believe what he said. ما نقدرش نقول أبدا I don't believe which he said. I don't believe what he said. طيب, if we want to use which, I will say I don't believe the words which he said. Now remember that we use all, everything, the best, the only thing. Here we use that. We use that with this expression. So we can say everything that you need, not everything which you need, everything that you need, or all that you need, all that you need, or all what you need. But you cannot use which here. We don't use that with non-defining words. Non-defining words اللي هي الجمل اللي فيها كوما زي كده. Mr. Ahmed, comma, who lives next door, comma, is very helpful. Here we cannot use that. So if you find the defining, clause, don't use that. So remember, we don't use that if you find defining relative clause. What is the defining relative clause? As you this sentence, as you see, we find after Mr. Ahmed, we find a comma, and then here we find a comma. This sentence is called defining a clause. So when there is a defining a clause, we don't use that. We use who or which. If we talk about a person, we use who. If we talk about something, we use which. But we don't use that. If there are two commas like this is defining clause, and we don't use that. Again, here's the car which I bought yesterday was very expensive. So here, when we find these two commas, we don't use that. Now, let's practice on this, the rules which we have taken. When can we use who, whom, whose, which, where, when, and what. Question number 1, the man car was stolen is called the police. The man car was stolen, called the police. Of course, here we have a car. This car is this person owns this car. So there is a relation between the car and the man. So here I wanted to say his car, a possessive pronoun. So which one? Of course, we are going to use whose. The man whose car, what does it mean? It means his car. The man whose car was stolen means the car of this man was stolen, and he called the police. Question number 2, can I talk to the man on the bench near you? Can I talk to the man is sitting, who's sitting, whom sits, sitting. Here I will say, can I talk to the man sitting? Can I talk to the man sitting? Why did I use sitting here? Because here we omitted the relative pronoun. احنا حذفنا هنا relative pronoun. أصل الجملة كانت can I talk to the man who sits next to you? Can I talk to the man who sits? If we omit the relative pronoun, we use the gerund, and we are going to talk about that in detail on the light board. Question number 3, the book had many pictures. The book, here I'm talking about something. The book, so I must say the book which I give you, or the book that I give you. But here again, we omitted the relative pronoun, so I will say the book I give you. Again, we can omit the relative pronoun, ممكن نحذف a relative pronoun if it is followed by a subject. The book I give you. What does it mean, the book I give you? It means the book which I give you. Question number 4, this is the house I lived when I was young. Here I'm talking about the house. I'm talking about a place. So when we talk about a place, we use what? Yes, very good. We use where. This is the house where I lived. طب إمتى كنا ممكن نستخدم which؟ لو كان في preposition, I will say the house in which I was born. But here there is no preposition, so the house where I lived. The house where I lived. Question number 5. The manager secretary is seriously ill, has to type the letters by himself. Here I wanted to say his secretary. His secretary. So instead of using his, we are going to use whose, because whose is used to show possessive pronoun. Instead of using his, we use whose. So why do we use whose? We use it to show that there is a possessive pronoun. So instead of saying his secretary, we are going to say whose secretary. The manager, whose secretary is seriously ill, has to type letters. Question number 6. That's the school in I had my primary education. Here remember that we cannot use where with the preposition in. So we cannot use the school in where. Okay, we have a school, we have a place, but we cannot use here where. Why can't we use where? Because there is a preposition. When there is a preposition, we use which. So we are going to say the school in which I had my primary education. Question number 7. I met the doctor. Car was stolen last year. Again, here we have car. This car belongs to the doctor. So there is a relation between them. I want to say his car. The doctor, I want to say his car. So instead of saying his car, we say, of course, we say whose. We said the doctor, whose car. I met the doctor, whose car was stolen last week. Now I'm going to tell you more about the relative pronouns and how we can omit the relative pronouns, as we have seen in the examples. We are going to explain them more. When can we omit the relative pronoun? But we are going to do that on the whiteboard. Let's go together. As you have seen, we talked about relative clause. Now we are going to talk about how to omit the relative pronoun. How to omit the relative pronoun. What's to omit? To omit means to leave out. We're going to remove the relative pronoun. For example, if I say, the book which I bought was interesting. Here we can omit the relative pronoun and we can say the book I bought. So we can say the book I bought without which. So this is correct. We can remove which and the sentence will be correct. So the first rule is that you can omit the relative pronoun if it is if a subject comes after it. If there is a subject after the relative pronoun, you can omit the relative pronoun. We can remove the relative pronoun if there is a subject. So the book I bought, the person I met, the woman I received. So we can omit the relative pronoun who or which if there is a subject after it. The second thing, if there is a verb after it, how can we remove the relative pronoun? For example, if I say, the man who sits next to me is friendly. The man who sits next to me, here we have a relative pronoun, but we cannot remove it and say the man sits next to me. What will we say? We will say the man sitting. The man sitting next to me is friendly. So if there is a verb after the relative pronoun and we want to remove the relative pronoun, we will make it a gerund. The man sitting next to me is friendly. The man sitting. So here I removed which without changing anything. The book which I bought, the book I bought. But here when I removed who, I changed sit into sitting. So the man sitting next to me is friendly. This is in an active sentence. What about the passive? If there is a passive sentence, cars which are made in Japan are expensive. Here we have a relative pronoun, cars which are made in Japan. This is a passive sentence. In a passive sentence, if we wanted to remove the relative pronoun, we are going to remove verb to be. So we are going to say cars made in Japan are expensive. So that's correct. Cars made in Japan are expensive. So again, if you wanted to remove the relative pronoun, if there is a subject after it, remove it and nothing change in the sentence. If you remove it in an active sentence, you will use a gerund, and if you remove it in a passive sentence, it will be there will be a past participle after it. Cars made in Japan are expensive. As you have seen, we discussed together the relative clause, the relative pronoun, the defining and non-defining clause. We used the who, whom, whose, which, where, and when, and what also. And we differentiated between them all. I want you to practice as much as you can, answer as many questions as you can, because as you know, practice makes perfect. And till we meet again, wish you best of luck. Goodbye.
أولى ثانوي، فرصة جديدة وحلم جديد، وهنعديها بالتأكيد، وهنعديها بالتأكيد.